The need to have access to government and public information by the citizens brought about the Freedom of Information Act (FOIA) as Nigeria enacted its own law 2 years ago after the advocacy led by the civil society. Since its passage, it appears Nigeria hardly needed the FOI Act as badly as the struggle for it suggests. At the 5th Wole Soyinka Center Media Lecture Series with the theme The Freedom of Information Act and the Dictatorship of Corruption and Mediocrity, the speakers highlighted the essence of the FOI Act.
Now it's been passed, it's actually been underutilized. However, that shouldn't be surprising. Even in America, it took 5 solid years after 10 years of struggling before the FOI request actually was granted. So we don't worry about that, but what matters is that we have been meeting with ministry, department and agencies, and we realize that a lot of them are trying to be FOI compliant, but if people are not asking, then you can't accuse them.
It goes beyond a statute to eliminate issues of corruption in Nigeria. The act is one of them, one of several other acts, setting up the EFCC, acts setting up the ICPC, and all these are just a body of laws. And when you have a law that is lacking in the power of enforcement, then you now have to see that there is a bigger problem to that. And the bigger problem that we have is that corruption itself has been entrenched as a national culture. And these are things that we need to address.
FOI comes with a challenge for government and institutions to divulge information, but these experts say it is a necessary part of democracy that must be done willingly, urging citizens to use it effectively.
Public officials and politicians here will over time need to change their instincts and attitudes from one of secrecy and the protection of information to openness and transparency in the work they do. And just to reassure you, 13 years after the introduction of our Freedom of Information Act, our public bodies can still be obstructed. So we still have a way to go.
The FOI Act is not the only piece of legislation in this business. The Fiscal Responsibility Act is one that most people don't sign. The Archives Act, nobody knows. The Environmental Impact Assessment Act, very few people understand. All of these mandate various forms of disclosure. But because we are more interested in spectacle, we have not been able to use any of these effectively.
The speakers were unanimous in their submission that change of attitude and orientation are needed on the part of government and the citizens for the Freedom of Information Act to be fully implemented. Adenike Owoye Ajiboye, SUPSCREEN News.